Okay, this is 2 o'clock on June 13th at the meeting of the tree committee. Just to inform you, I sent an email to you this morning that we may have a guest, a young lady, a young BR student who is part of a small group there, I guess, that is interested in climate change. And she sent a letter to town planner regarding that, and he told me about it. So I invited her to come to the meeting and explain what they're doing at the high school. And we may fit in very well with them. So hopefully she'll show up. I don't know. Okay. First order of business is to approve the minutes of May 9th, 2023. Do I have a motion to approve the minutes? Motion's made. Is there a second?
Second.
Motion been made and seconded. Any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
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 All just came on.
I'll have to abstain. I haven't seen them.
All right, maybe in the future, Paul, excuse me, Josh, we can you just send them to us in a formal way or so we
Yeah,
okay.
yeah, I can double check.
Okay, that would be great. I know it's difficult to find things on that website. I had great difficulty. Anyway, okay. If Emily shows up, the young woman from BR, I'm going to take her out of order so she won't have to sit through this meeting. Okay, the first order of old business is the recommended trees, and I think James, you sent out a list today on the recommended trees. May want to comment it. I would just before you do, if you could, James. I couldn't. I had difficulty printing it. You could send in a different format. I'm not sure. I'd like to send it on to the town planner because they're revising our own thing. Okay.
Okay.
Go ahead. Go ahead, James.
So yeah, what I sent, and I just sent it to you, Ray, so that you could share it.
Oh, I thought it went to everybody. I'm sorry.
Because I didn't think we're supposed to send things to everybody. But anyway, yeah, it's still, I mean, we've been working on it. I'm feeling a little bit I'm feeling a little bit better about it, but I'm still kind of uncertain. I think we have two different tree list means two different things to me anyway. One is the list of what is in the regs that we can include when we tell a builder, here's a list of things you're permitted to use as street trees. That we started with an existing list. We've taken a couple things off and added a couple things, potentially a couple of trees potentially to that. But then we also had a discussion, I think and that should end up being just a list, just an alphabetical list with no comment of what's permitted. But I think there's also a benefit to having a more educational list that explains maximum size, the potential root damage, other parameters we might be interested in, and that also shows what we have omitted and why from the previous list. And so that's what I shared with you. It's kind of hard to do. I've kind of gotten it's the kind of thing it'd be much easier to do on paper and in person than through Zoom. But I did create the I can share that link with everybody if that is helpful. It's just a
Let me just ask you one question first of all, James. Why separate lists? I mean, once we put in the required trees, it's going to go into the subdivision control law. Why another list explaining things that aren't on the list?
Because I think there are trees that we could encourage people to use for things other than a subdivision tree, other than a street tree, farther back in a development, or just regular people in town who have property and want to put trees somewhere on the property. lists of trees where we're encouraging them to plant.
So what
That's-
you're saying is, you have one list which are required trees the developers will have to use for development. And a second list of potential trees, is that what you're saying?
I guess so. And the more I think about it, maybe that's beyond our purview at this point. I'll just keep that list for if there's future interest in it. I'm going to put I can only send. I'm also, I just sent Josh this link
Okay.
for the sheet.
Bill, I'm curious, from being the tree warden, what do you think about two lists?
Oh, well, we want a list for our ordinance
Right,
that will cover all street trees and recommended trees in new developments. I think that one list would do that, but I think that James might have a good idea to have a secondary list for down the road when we're into our educational mode, suggesting different species for people that could plant trees in their backyards. Trees that are too tall for around the wires, that sort of thing.
okay, so that list, I'm just clarifying my own mind, that list would not necessarily be in the required list. It'd simply be a separate document that we would give to people.
The secondary list, yeah.
Okay, anybody else, any comments? Shirley?
Because there's an educational component to our committee, I don't think we should hold back on a comprehensive list of trees. How we identify them is one thing. They may be one alphabetical list with columns that could be checked off as appropriate for where they should go, whether they are street trees or whether they are backyard trees, whatever it might be. And I think we should increase as much information as we can in order to meet our educational component here and give people as much information as we think is important for them to have in order to be sure that they can plant trees that will live and know how to take care of them, etc. I'm kind of leaning toward more information rather than restricting the information to just development at this point.
Okay, anybody else?
I can't imagine how that's going to work out in the subdivision regulations. I mean, right now it's a single
Right.
list. And so we should have I think, a primary list of what we want those developers to use.
I'm leaning the same way, Pat. I think the required list will go into the bylaws, and a secondary list we'll have to decide where that's going to go at some point. I think it's a good idea, and I think we should do it, but I'm not sure. I don't think they can be combined into the subdivision control law. Yeah. Okay. Since you haven't seen the list, James, can you just, I think it's all right, just send the list that you've put together to everybody. But I would suggest if you can do it in a different format. I had difficulty printing it and even reading it. Maybe you could, I'm not sure how you did it, but I just had difficulty with it. Maybe it's just me. But if you can just send it as a document or attachment that people could
Okay.
print, then we could discuss it in more detail at the next meeting.
Okay, I'm sorry to drag this out even further, but the next meeting, I'm going to be on an airplane to Panama.
Well, that's not an excuse.
On my a layover in Panama on the way to the Amazon.
Yeah, that's all right.
So
Well,
if they give me Wi-Fi on the plane, I'll be joining you. But if they don't,
Well, I'm not sure the rest of you think. It seems to me that we can at least look at it. And
Oh,
this-
definitely.
This is going to be tied together with the tree ordinance anyway, so
okay.
it's
So what I just sent you in the chat is a link to the document that is a little fuzzy. I'll send everybody an email with just the list extracted from that and that document in a PDF that should be easier to read.
That's great. Okay, that would be great.
That I can do.
And James, if you want to actually just send that to me and I'll distribute it to the committee. That way,
Oh, okay,
it keeps reply alls from going out.
Yeah,
okay, I'll do that. Thanks, Josh.
great. Okay, anybody else on recommended tree list? All right, the tree ordinance, I think this will go fairly quickly. Bill, you want to just update people on what we've done so far?
Yeah, we had a meeting last week with Josh, who has been tasked with writing this tree ordinance. And we were quite pleased to find out that Josh is almost excited about it. Is it? But he's going to prepare a draft. We're going to make suggestions to it, and that may go back and forth a few times, but I think we're on the way to constructing a real tree ordinance. That's it in a nutshell.
Yeah. And I think what we've said all along is this is not something that we can do quickly. It's going to take longer than we expected, I think, but
Yeah.
hopefully by the end of the process, it will be a good tree ordinance. So, yeah, Michael's office is involved through Josh, and that's good. And I think at some point we're going to come up with a nice new tree ordinance. So, any other comments on it? All right. Next item, this will be quick too. The tree watering plans. I think, Paul, you said that we're all set on that for the tree watering of the 2 new trees.
New trees are all set, the gator bags are on them, and Jim from Rec has been handling it.
Great. Any comments? And you're not still on, Paul. How about the forestry department bucket truck thing? Where are we on that? Any movement at all? And you're smiling, I know, but
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't expect to see any movement for quite a while, in my honest opinion, but that's just my opinion. I just kind of looked at some quick numbers to see where we'd have to be. Looks like 160,000 can get you into a what did I look up, like a 60-foot bucket truck. If they want to go the rental route, there's rental options. 700 a day, a couple thousand a week, up to 6,000 a month. If they want to go into some pre-owned options, we found some smaller ones like a 37-foot on a 550 chassis. That can be in the $70,000 range. So there's options depending on what they want to do and how much money they have.
have you sent this to Michael?
No, he's off this week.
Oh. Well,
But again, I don't see any point in buying the truck until they're really ready to go forward and establish the department with personnel.
okay. Do you need any help on this, or? I mean, you seem,
No, it really has to come from him, I think, if he knows what the group's looking for, so.
any comments from others? Shirley?
I just don't want it to be pushed aside later date. I want to see if we can accelerate this whole tree department and equipment movement while it's still a hot issue, while people are still talking about it, while we have some energy behind it. And so I would suggest we move forward and give Michael the information that you've acquired, Paul, and maybe in the form of through Ray, a form of a letter from the tree committee, using your figures for what a bucket truck might cost us in the various degrees it could come, whether it's a ride out brand new or whether it's a rental or used, whatever it might be. And let the tree committee be the instigator in pushing this movement along, so that we have not only a bucket truck, but also some kind of a guarantee that we're going to have forestry department as part of the tree department, or as part of your department.
Oh, there's.
Yeah. So as far as the equipment, any type of equipment purchase like that would have to be through capital purchase, which is a year out now, because we're just doing the correct me if I'm wrong, Josh, we just funded the FY 23 capital, right?
24, yeah.
Well, we just funded the 23. So now we start the 24 process.
Right, yeah.
Yeah, so it's basically a year out, so we have like little pages we can submit with pictures of the truck and information. I'll put one of those together and submit it to finance, and it'll be there. At least they will never be able to say we didn't do it.
You know, Paul, it seems to me Shirley has got a good point. Maybe instead of putting the burden on you, if you can feed us what you need and information, we could send it to Michael as a recommendation from the full committee, instead of you taking the brunt of this.
Okay.
Is that all right? Mhm.
Yeah, if that's what you
Okay.
want.
Hey,
I
what-
can send somebody a quick list of the, a
Well,
few
maybe-
various options.
Maybe you could, yeah, just, well, we need a motion from somebody to recommend that we do this as a group and not as Paul doing it individually. And then,
I think it has to go both ways, because nothing's gonna happen on our end if I don't do the worksheet.
right,
The town's been pretty clear. I have to do one of those on any capital project. So that's something I have to do anyway. So
Yeah,
let me do that, and then I will just forward the figures to you, and if you choose to write a letter to him, then you can do that.
Okay. All right. Then we need a motion then to give,
I would move that Paul identify in a form of a equipment list, et cetera, what he needs in the way of equipment and what he needs in the way of manpower. And that he CC that to you, Ray, in addition to sending it directly to Michael. Then Ray, as the chairman of the tree committee, if you could say that this was endorsed by the tree committee at a meeting on such and such a date, and that we would strongly support this move forward as quickly as the process allows.
is there a second to the motion?
A
I
motion.
second that.
Made and
Right,
seconded.
sorry to interrupt. Just, I think we want to be a little careful with the motion, not that the committee is directing Paul to do something. Because you guys are an advisory to Michael. That makes sense.
Oh, we're not, we're advising Michael to do something, that's all. I'm not sure I understand.
Oh, I'm sorry. I thought, my understanding was Shirley was making a motion to just typing it.
Bill, Paul.
Have Paul put together a list and then send it to Michael.
How about if I put together a list of equipment options? A few different trucks, new at a few different heights, and a few different trucks used, and a rental option. I'll send it to Ray and that's it. And then Ray, if you want to send it to Michael, so be it.
Yeah, and then if we wanted to put that on the next meeting and you could frame it as you're motioning to send Paul's recommendation to Michael. I think that probably plays a little bit better than the committee
Okay,
asking Paul.
all right, then, Shirley, you want to withdraw your motion?
Right, sure, either that or to amend it so that it includes what Josh just talked about. Because that's really what I was trying to do.
Okay, why don't
Okay.
you state your
Committee.
motion again then? Just state your, so we're clear.
All right, based on the information coming from Paul, the tree committee would recommend that the purchase of equipment and this, including personnel, Paul,
Sure, I mean, it's fine. I mean, I think he understands we need personnel, but I'll add it.
so we could say the equipment and the proposal for additional personnel. That's the endorsement of the tree committee.
Yes,
Put on to Michael. Does that help? Does that make it clearer?
Yeah, that's definitely clear, yeah.
Okay, so what we're saying then is that Paul will send me a list of what he needs. We will then vote on it at the next meeting and send it to Michael. Is that
Yes.
clear?
Right,
Okay, so second to the motion?
I'll second the motion.
Okay, motion made and seconded. Any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
All right.
Okay.
Aye.
All right. I'd like to take one thing out of order here, and that's the last thing on the new business. Pre-mitigation recommendation, if it's okay with you. I mean, I forgot who brought that up. I think Shirley, you did at one point. And I'm not sure where we're going with this. Let me just read you. Under the new zoning act, what it says about mitigation. Clearing of vegetation or alteration of topography shall be replicated with native vegetation planted in distributed areas as needed, so forth and so on. Last line says, as mitigation for tree removal, an applicant may be required to make an appropriate payment in lieu of conditions of using any I can't read my own writing. In lieu of a condition of any special permit or site plan approval. In other words, it is saying for the first time in our zoning law that an applicant that's going to cut trees down may be required to have some sort of mitigation. It's not specific, a number of trees or anything other than that. I just want to make you aware of that. Whether, and we can't change it because that's, take a act of Congress to change it now that's been voted upon. But I'm just saying you may want to consider as time goes on, for instance, as the project at the NIP comes forward, there's going to be some trees cut down, and how you want to recommend to the planning board what to do in situations like this in terms of mitigation. It's a general comment right now in terms of mitigation. We have it in there. We can't simply, I mean, before we had the bag, now we have some teeth to it. So it's still general though. So I just want you to think about how we're going to apply this when we get a large project. Yeah, Pat.
We need a formula. We have to come up with a formula for size of trees and the value assigned to those trees, so that we can be reimbursed for the loss.
Well, the question then comes up, where is that formula going to go? It's not going to be in zoning,
We can put it as an amendment.
not the zoning. I
No,
mean, in theory, it could be, but the bureaucracy of changing zoning now would be, it could happen, I suppose, but it'd be difficult. It might, maybe it can go in the subdivision control law, which the planning board can do on its own. Shirley?
I'm not sure. I understand mitigation is fairly relatively new. We've only had one opportunity to to apply funds and mitigate for them, and we received that. So that's been since the zoning board had anything to do with regulations, correct?
Just to there have been two cases. One, we got $20,000 from the warehouse on 18. The Kearney, we asked mitigation money from Kearney for the warehouse that he put up at the NIP. He gave us only 6,500 for that. He couldn't require anything. I just want you to think about this, because if you're not specific, you can negotiate money. Whereas if you are specific, it's going to be one amount, if you understand what I'm saying. Let's go back to the solar farm on 18. When they came before us the first time, they told us they're cutting down 10 acres of trees. I said, that's a lot of trees. How about some money? And they offered $50,000. I said, how about 76,000? No, we ended up agreeing to $76,000. And that was simply verbally going back and forth. They obviously had no problem doing that, of giving them a amount of money. If we go by the number of trees cut down and size and everything, then it's going to be a fixed amount. I'm just throwing that out. I'm not giving you, saying one thing or the other. I'm just throwing this out to you in terms of solar
think-
farms. I'm sorry.
I didn't mean to, I thought you were done, sorry.
Well, Shirley, go ahead.
There are mitigation formulas for the cut down of trees based on size, et cetera,
Right.
appear in various zoning ordinances, tree ordinances. I don't think we'd have any difficulty putting together a mitigation funding plan that would give a specific amount based on specific measurements so that everybody has the same rules and regs and it isn't arbitrarily negotiated with each new developer who comes in. And I think that that can be something that we can initiate in the tree committee and ask the zoning board if they would consider this when they are negotiating for any new developments and let us know how they make out on it so that we try to establish a formula that is fair and consistent for every developer who comes in.
Okay, Paul, you want to say something?
I kind of want to agree with Shirley there. I think it has to be consistent because if you start negotiating with everyone, you're going to set a precedent anyway. Like
It has to be a formula, yeah.
if you get 70,000 from the last guy, or whatever it was, 76, and you get 20,000 from the next guy, well, the third guy that comes along is never going to give you 70,000 again, in my opinion, anyway.
Well, again, I'm just throwing this out to you. I'm not saying one way or the other. Whatever the board wants, it's fine. We need something though. I mean, I only brought that up because something like a solar farm, which is highly profitable, they had no problem in writing a check for $76,000, none whatsoever.
And
mean,
could that be part of the formula, like what the use is?
We
If
didn't
it's
use the formula.
residential,
No, we didn't use, I just said, how about $200,000? And they said, oh, we'll never pay that. And we negotiated 76, whereas on the warehouse on the NIP, I forgot what I asked, but Carney wouldn't budge. I mean, he said 6,500. In the case of the NIP warehouse, a formula would have given us more money. In the case of the solar farm on 18, it would have given us less money. That's all I'm saying. So
I have a really basic question. What's the lever that makes them have to pay anything? I mean,
nothing.
can't people just, like, if I cut down a tree on my property, I don't need anybody's permission, don't have to pay anybody. I understand how that's different from a warehouse coming in and taking out 10 acres of trees. It's different in how it looks, but how is it different legally? Like,
different because there are restrictions on development, including just taking vegetation and replicating it at some point. I mean, if you look at the zoning and the subdivision control laws, there's a considerable amount of restrictions put on private development, commercial development. Taking a tree down on your property is one thing, but taking 10 acres of trees down is another matter in terms of the law.
Okay.
And the question is whether how we want to do this. I mean, I'm if you want to come up with a formula, that's fine. I mean, it may be the best way to do it.
But what would the mechanism be to enforce it? You said we can't change the zoning. Would it come under the planning board?
Yeah, it would be the planning board. I would suspect that this committee would make a recommendation with a formula to the planning board. And either the planning board can either adopt it into the subdivision control law or simply say to the developer, this is what we would like.
Under your special permit?
Well, it could even be a site plan. I mean, we
Okay.
don't want just special permits. I mean, Yeah, under special permit, it would probably fit well, but
Mhm.
Shirley?
I would like to hope that we can sit down and talk with the planning board if there is a difference of opinion on this, so that we are all on the same page. If we come up with a formula for X number of trees at X size, et cetera, and this is the price, then I think we ought to sit down and talk with the planning board and see if they agree, so that we don't have two committees opposing each other or having different mitigation formulas. I think that doesn't show well for the town to have dissension of that kind within the town committees. So I would say that Ray, hopefully, as a member of both committees, the tree committee and the planning board, you could work something out where either you representing the tree committee or call together the planning board and the tree committee to come up with a formula that will apply to all developers in the town of Bridgewater.
I think realistically, Shirley, if we were to come up with a formula, and I guess it's out there, I mean, Carlton came up with that formula when we were talking about the solar farm for the first time. We come up with a formula and recommend it to the planning board, they'll simply adopt it.
Right. They wouldn't be
That's
against
fine.
it.
They're not gonna be against it. They won't.
That's fine. I don't care how it's done, but I think there should be one size fits
Right.
all committees.
Right. Right,
Yeah.
I agree. Yeah, you're right. Now, in other words, what we recommend is that we just simply adopt the formula and not negotiate.
That's fine. As
Right,
long as
right.
the planning board would go along with it. If there's any confusion there, or if there's any reason to think the planning board wouldn't go along with it, then I think we ought to sit down and come to a meeting of the minds where we can either compromise or whatever is necessary. But I think we all have to buy into it if we're going to make this work.
Okay, okay.
We won't have to start from scratch because there are lots of formulas out there.
Okay,
Exactly.
you know.
Does anybody want to come up with a couple options for the next meeting of formulas?
I think we need Nicole in on this.
Mhm.
Yes, is it 2:30? She's coming out at 2:30. Whether she knows it or not, she's got an assignment.
She's got so much experience with this stuff.
Okay, yeah. Okay, we'll wait till she comes on. The last thing, well, the student from BR did not come on. I
Do
think
you
we,
know the- do you know the
sorry?
name of that group, Ray?
I don't know the name of a group. It's the young lady is named Emily. I forgot her last name. And she simply wrote a short letter to the planning board to Shane, saying that there's a group, I guess it's a group that is interested in climate change and how trees can help, and they want to plant trees in Bridgewater.
Oh,
He forwarded it to me, and I emailed her and invited her to come to this meeting and explain what they were doing.
right.
And I sent her the link. She actually emailed me this morning or yesterday, and I thought she might be on the meeting, but she's not.
Oh,
But I can find out more about the group, and maybe we can invite her to the next meeting and we can talk more about it. They're obviously going on summer break anyway right now, so they'll probably be in the fall.
oh,
But
right.
I think that's great if we can get involved with the high school students.
Definitely. There is a environmental group at the school. Maybe it's part of that group.
Could be.
Yeah.
Do you know anything about the group, Pat?
Called YES, YESS. It's Youth Environmental Social something. And I've been in touch with them over the years about environmental things. You know, they collected styrofoam and once or twice, and a few different events like that. But it depends who their advisor is. Maybe they have someone that's encouraged the tree planting, which is good.
Okay, all right. Okay, maybe, well, then I will email her and see if she or somebody else from that committee can appear at our next meeting. Or have her clarify more what they're doing, what they want to do.
Yeah.
And here's Nicole.
Hi, Nicole.
We were just
Hi,
talking,
everyone.
we were just talking about you, Nicole.
Uh-oh.
And you know, when you're not around, who gets?
I got
assigned?
yeah, what did I get assigned?
Well, it seems that some people in this group, I won't mention names, think that you're the perfect person to come with a tree mitigation formula for that we can use if planning board can use if trees are cut down. Is that true?
Well, I can look, I've seen a lot of them. We could probably, I can help kind of look at other, look at precedent from other municipalities and see what might make sense for us. You're talking about a monetary value or?
Monetary, monetary.
Gotcha. Okay. That I don't know.
Well, just to go back, let me repeat for you, Nicole, since you weren't on before, when we talked about the mitigation that we received for the that was going to come from the solar farm in 18, we just threw out a figure, and our group right now wants a formula and not.
Oh, I see.
And I know there are formulas, but and the idea would be that if the planning board gets a large development, say the NIP again, and they cut down 8 acres of trees, we can apply a specific formula that you must give the town X number of dollars based on this formula. Does that make sense?
It does.
It doesn't, though.
It does. Well, I would love for the first step to be that,
Don't
trees
do
of a
it.
certain caliper need to be replaced by trees of a certain caliper. So maybe that goes into the formula.
Right.
A lot of times if you cut down a certain tree, you sometimes need to replace it with 2 or 3 or 4. Potentially off-site, of course, if that's part of the agreement.
Well, the intent when we first started the mitigation, and again, repeating myself for you, Nicole,
Yeah,
mitigation is now in zoning. That's new.
right.
It wasn't before. Before we simply negotiated an amount, but the intent was that money that we received, which we have 27,500 now, would be used to plant new trees around Bridgewater. That's specifically what it was going to be for trees.
Yep.
So mitigation is in zoning now, so we can simply say you're going to cut down 5 acres of trees. That based on this formula, it equals to $17,455.22 pay up. And each time we've done this, negotiated it,
Yeah.
the developer has had to pay that money prior to breaking any ground or
Yeah.
cutting one tree down. So it's worked in terms of simply negotiating. Now with that, the group seems to want a formula, so we need a formula. What do you think?
Yeah, I agree. I would agree with that. I personally think that we should think about the formula with respect to clear cutting, and large diameter trees, which may require them to do a little bit more mapping and investigation before they even, up front, right? To help better develop the value. Like, if they're cutting down a heritage tree or this, large diameter tree, that should have a greater value, than, just some scrubby brush area. If they're clear cutting like significant contiguous forest, well, that makes me really sad. And I feel like that's priceless. But anyway, I would think that, perhaps that comes with a different, I think there's a lot of work that we could do to develop this formula. And maybe it has a little bit of complexity to it that sort of supports, I guess, what we're concerned about, losing in terms of trees in the town.
What would you recommend? Can you think you can come up with a prototype of a formula or no?
I have to do a little bit of research, a little bit more digging.
Yeah.
When I was looking at I did a lot of research and pulled together some precedent, but it was more for, I guess, limitations to being able to do such things as clear cutting, that it was basically putting criteria, only a certain percentage of a lot or only a certain percentage of the buffers or something, whatever it was, there were, criteria. There was also like, you can't cut down a tree of a certain caliber. So those were like more regulatory requirements. And then I guess I never fully looked into what their variance process was, if there was a monetary mitigation for not aligning with those. So without those guidance, we would potentially be trying to put an equal value on everything. And I'm not sure I don't know if I think that's the case. Maybe we could talk about that.
Mhm.
Yeah.
When we were looking through the tree ordinances.
Yeah.
Nicole, we came across several towns that did have
Right back.
a formula
Mhm.
of tree. I agree that perhaps it should go a step further and include the species of trees, because obviously some are more valuable than others. And I think that is available to us in various ordinances throughout the state, or maybe even
Okay.
throughout the country. So it
Yeah.
was a little bit of research to see what we could come up with that would apply particularly to Bridgewater and the developers in Bridgewater who want to take a tract of land and just clear cut it and put in houses.
Yep. Yeah, well, and actually, now that I'm thinking, I found that, I think I sent the link around, but I'll look into it as well, is that there was a lot of sample ordinances that are available that we can look at and see what their formulas are.
Mhm. I'd be willing to work with you if you wanted to.
Yeah.
On that.
Okay.
We can sort of look to see where the information is and how we want to divide it up or how we want to address it. And I do,
Is there-
for the most part, it's been just by caliber, but I think we really should include the species of trees, because we can lose an awful lot of good hardwood and trees that are not going to be replaceable in the next 50 years, for instance.
Is,
Mhm.
is our tree committee limited to town trees?
Yes.
Can we- Okay, so.
Oh, wait a
what-
minute, I'm sorry. Yes, we are limited to town trees.
So are we going to be able to address clear cutting on private land, whatever?
I think that may be a hazy area, but if we're just making a recommendation, we have no power to
Mhm,
do anything. That's all.
Okay,
We're just recommending something.
Mhm.
It's not going to go into any bylaws. It's simply, or unless the planning board wants to adopt our recommendation, Okay, so Nicole,
So
you think-
Shirley and I, we're going to try to work together on that formula.
I will say one thing as an aside to this, the hotel at the NIP is coming back before the planning board in July. So just be aware that you may want to, we won't have anything by that time, but we obviously can still talk about mitigation with them. All right,
All right, can you keep us informed as to the time, the date when that meeting is going to take place? Maybe some of us would like to attend.
I think
It
it's the second, I think it's, I'll check, but I'm pretty sure it's the,
July 19th.
yeah, July 19th, the second meeting in the only meeting in July, yeah, July 19th. So,
Just regarding that topic, the Open Space Committee did submit a letter, a comment letter to the planning board members regarding that project.
Yeah.
If anybody is interested in reviewing it, I think it's public record, so I'd be happy to forward it to you.
yeah.
That was a terrific letter.
Yeah,
Would
it's
you do
very,
that, Nicole? Send it to the whole committee?
Yeah,
I
I'd
will.
love to see that.
it's a very good letter, excellent letter.
Mm.
It's, it's to the point, let's put it that way. It's a good letter. All right, I'm gonna combine, old business C and the, E, excuse me, and outreach to the public. I think we had discussed the possibility of something in the fall. And I wasn't at the end of the meeting last time. I really would like to get a pamphlet, in my mind, something that we could simply give to the public that would be there, they can use to plant trees on their own land. And obviously good PR for us. I mean, I don't know if any of you thought about something. Doesn't have to be that, but something.
Didn't we talk about pamphlets from Arbor Day organization as well as tree warden group that had pre-printed literature?
We did
Yes.
talk about that.
Yeah,
And maybe I wasn't there at that part.
Right.
Yeah, let me find that email. I think I circulated a link to a pamphlet that was we could purchase from the Arbor Day Foundation. It was quite inexpensive, actually. I thought so anyway, for how many. It was like you could get 1,000 for pretty short money.
and what was it you found, Bill?
Again,
What was it you found from the tree warden group?
I didn't, I haven't looked for that.
Oh, I
But
thought you
I
did.
do know that there is a wonderful pamphlet. I don't know, 2 or 3 leaflets that describe how to plant a tree in terms that any homeowner can understand. And most homeowners desperately need something like that. Because a lot of people want to plant a tree, but not many people know how to do it. And it needs a little instruction. I'll take a look for it this
Okay.
summer, see if I can come up with something.
Okay,
Yeah, if I can share my screen, actually, I can show you the pamphlet that we can get from the Arbor Day Foundation. We can get 2,000 for $10 for $9.95.
2,000 for $9.95.
That is correct.
That's ridiculous. I wouldn't pay more than $5 for it. No, that's great. That's great.
Oh, Josh, would you be able to just allow me to share my screen?
Yep.
Okay.
Just a second here. All right, you should be all set.
Yeah, so this is what it looks like. I'm sure it's folded in some way, but this is sort of the flat version, the PDF, but it looks like it gives, gives some example about how trees absorb carbon dioxide. It shows sort of what you were talking about, Bill, kind of a step-by-step tip for planting bare root trees. A little bit of information about Arbor Day, recognizing, just again, more information about Arbor Day, but I thought it was a nice little pamphlet because it does provide those tips.
It's interesting that they are talking about planting bare root trees, which most people do not run into. Most trees are potted or balled and burlapped. Funny that they'd feature that.
Do you think because they say unpack your trees, remove all packing material carefully? I don't know. Okay, well, if we don't think it's the proper instructions, we could find something different.
Well, I think doesn't Arbor Day, they will, when they send you free trees
I
or,
think these are the free trees.
right.
Yeah.
They'll show you how
Yeah,
to plant
that's what it
their
is. And
tree.
those are bare rooted.
Right, and I
Gotcha.
get bare root from some online nurseries do bare root. I've gotten some, so it's.
Well, that's-
hopefully people can extrapolate. I think it's.
That's
still good.
interesting because we could get a few of them from them as well and have them as a little demonstration to show in a little bucket or big bucket, but we could show how to do it too if we wanted a little bit of a hands-on
Hmm.
experiment there.
How about
I-
if we come up with a couple, 3 options for the next meeting?
Okay.
Okay,
Good.
Yep. My other suggestion too is that I found some coloring pages too that could be a handout for children. Sometimes
Okay.
they're kind of walking around looking for some stuff, so we would have to get these printed at, Bridgewater Print or somewhere. I mean, we don't want to kill too many trees by printing paper, but I do think that the coloring page could
Right.
be fun.
Right.
We'll just remind them to recycle it.
Yeah, and Paul said they have an account there.
Okay.
Yeah, we definitely did.
Mhm.
okay, so we will, let's see, the main things at the next meeting will be the possibility of, we decide on a pamphlet, some sort of handout, and also the mitigation formula for trees. It'd be great if we can get that somewhat, at least one of those points settled at the next meeting. Okay,
Okay.
that's it for me.
Okay.
Anybody else? By the way, the one thing, going back to the pamphlet, I'd like, any pamphlet that we pass out, either we have a stamp or something that we have our name on it, that's donated, that's pamphlets by the Bridgewater Tree Committee. We need PR too. So. And if it costs $10, well, we'll get 2,000. I don't know. I mean, if Paul doesn't want us to pay the $10 out of his, we
We
have.
can buy that. We can buy it. Right out of
I'll buy it
mitigation money.
myself.
I'll buy it, right. Actually, it's only $9.95.
Oh, well, that's even better.
Great, we have thousands. We can buy all the stamps you want.
All right, good. Anything else you want to bring up, folks?
No,
No.
I was just gonna
What's the
suggest
date
that we
of the
try to,
July meeting, Ray?
Wait a minute, excuse me, Paul.
I was just gonna say, which we've done, can we try to keep them to an hour? I know sometimes we've gone over, but I
Yeah.
usually get a scoop by 3 o'clock.
I'm all in favor of it too, yeah. I don't like long meetings, and you guys are great because you don't talk forever. Shirley, you had something?
The next meeting is the date?
It's the, I believe the 11th of July. The 11th of July. Okay. Are we all set?
Yep.
Thank you very much. I'll take a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? Okay. Take care, everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ray.